Everyone, so welcome here to CameraPro on the couch. Tonight we've got Sean Scott, so thanks so much for coming. I just wanted to quickly say, everyone, if you want to check out any of our previous videos or what's coming next, then to like and subscribe to our channel, so you won't miss out on anything. We'll get straight into it. So Sean's going to tell us a little bit about him, so thanks for coming again, Sean. If you want to just say, like, how'd you get started and who you are and what you're sort of most known for.
Yeah, thanks Shannon. I'm a coastal landscape photographer. I do a lot of travel photography as well for a lot of the tourism boards. I originally started just sort of taught myself and sold a lot of my images locally at markets, and then slowly progressed that and sort of slowly stepped into being a full-time photographer.
Yeah, cool. And I guess when you talk about sea landscapes, is there anything in particular you like more than the others, or?
It keeps changing. Like originally when I started, as a surfer, I've always loved the ocean, and I remember as a young boy just laying in the water and just thinking how beautiful this was. And a few years later, I'd be out there surfing, and they say only a surfer knows their feeling, and you're seeing these beautiful golden waves and the view you can't really get unless you're out in the water. So that was something I always thought about, and then I thought, how can I capture this and share it with people? And photography was the answer to me. Yeah,
cool. And I guess when you originally started, so because you've been in this industry for 20 plus years, where did you start in terms of camera gear, or what was your kind of go-to from then to now?
Yeah, so it's been a big change. I first started on film. My very first camera was just on a trip with my wife. This is how I first got into photography, and that was just a small little point and shoot. It was a film camera again. I sort of did a trip from home to Tasmania, a road trip, and when I got there, I went to get the photos developed, and they didn't work. So I went down to the local pawnbrokers and bought a film SLR camera. And my wife's father was a photographer, so he was sort of into it a bit, so I think I was trying to sort of impress him a little bit. But then this is before we were married, so we spent 2 weeks travelling around Tassie, and I was just taking photos, had no idea how to use the thing. I was writing down my settings and trying to look up things. Like, there wasn't even a lot of, you couldn't really Google on your phones then.
Yeah, true.
You'd sort of probably ring up her dad and ask a few questions about, what sort of shutter speeds, and there was a little electronic meter in the camera from memory that gave me a bit of an idea. So me and my wife and myself, we both would take turns, and we'd try to see who's the best, and we'd go get the photos developed. And fast forward 20 years now, now I'm using the state of the art Canon mirrorless cameras, so I've sort of progressed all the way from film all the way to where I am now. Yeah,
and I guess you impressed her dad enough that she
I think so, yeah, I think so. He definitely was into it. I think he sort of slowed his photography down sort of halfway through my journey. So, but we still definitely sort of love all that aspect of what we do.
Yeah, cool. And I guess when you're shooting, is there anything in particular that sparks how do you get your ideas for your next shot, or what you kind of go into?
I've always loved just to show people things. So, things that have inspired me, I've just found a way to capture those and show other people. And because I started off my business by selling my own images, they were always, when you go to Burleigh Heads where I live, the surf's huge. There'll be, hundreds of people sitting on the point looking out at the surf, and they could be grandparents, surfers, plumbers, everything. And there was always something there that interested them. And I found that I could capture those unique angles, and it sort of appealed to people, and I was lucky enough that they would buy them, which then sort of kept, being able to reinvest in my gear and just grow from there. So I've sort of just bounced around, and I've just been lucky that people have liked what I've seen and what I wanted to share with them, and it sort of just kept going that way. Yeah,
cool. And so you started when did you start selling? Like, when did you start your print shop? What was that story?
Probably early on. I worked out how to make the frames and all that myself. Cool. So I just started at local beachfront markets. I learned how to print them myself. I got my own canvas printer early on. I used to make the frames in my backyard. I work full time still at this stage for Energex climbing power poles. So
there you go.
On the weekends I'd be at the market selling photos, and every spare minute I'd be out there shooting and learning the craft, just learning the technical side of the camera and how to capture what I saw. And it just grew and snowballed and rolled, and finally I was able to step out of that into full-time photography.
Yeah, cool. And what sort of, so the main thing that took you from your Energex days to photography is that whole wanting to show people what you saw or how you saw it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it was sort of coincided probably one of the first housing booms. I'm not sure what year it is now, so 20 years ago, but people were decorating houses a lot then, sort of similar to what's happening at the moment. So there was a big push for artwork in houses, and I learned how to make these, nice images and nice frames. So people like those, and with that money I could reinvest it and get better gear, and then I opened a small gallery at Burleigh. I was still working full time. My wife had just had a baby and we renovated our house, and then I was able to step out. My son came along, and then I took 12 months leave without pay from my job, which allowed me not to take the full straight cut, but gave me 12 months to really give it a crack. And I started off, selling my own prints in the gallery.
Yeah, cool. And it just flourished from there.
It went from there, and that was all pre-social media days, and then social media came along, and that opened up a lot more avenues for a lot of the travel work that I'm doing.
Cool. Yeah. So I guess if this was your make or break, like, is that the main thing that gives you income, and still to this day, or is there other avenues? How do you make money off and continue to grow it, I guess?
Yeah, so at the start I was working full time, that was our income, and then when I moved into photography I probably invested everything I'd earned probably for 5 years while I was doing these markets, and I was earning some good money at these sales.
Yeah, cool.
I could invest that in getting the best gear, the best printers. I've always tried to keep on top of the game there, which just gives you that extra advantage. So you said your product becomes as good as it can be.
Yeah, cool.
And from there, the gallery now is my full income, as well as the tourism work I do. The store has expanded out. It's not just photography. We do have some like homewares. We've got a lot of clothing. It's probably one of the busiest women's boutique in Burleigh as well. So it's kind of quite a mixture, but it's all things that I've loved about Burleigh, and that our team sort of all put together. And
nice vibe in there.
Yeah, it's a great spot to have a gallery, and I love it.
Yeah, cool. So in terms of your travel and your wildlife side of things, how is it you choose your locations and like plan your trips and that kind of thing?
So originally I did a lot of surf, and then once I think I started to see that market get really inundated with a lot of people, and I still love shooting surf, and I still will. I still look for it whenever it's perfect. So, but then I sort of found a lot of underwater sea life that I wanted to photograph.
Oh yeah.
And at first I would find locations like Esperance in WA. I'd go there to photograph the whale sharks, and people would love those in the gallery. So at the start I would do it that way. But then I found a lot of tourism boards were interested in me showcasing the locations, because by this stage my social media following had grown as well. So instead of having to pay to go to all these remote beautiful locations, I was getting free trips, and then the change from that to get paid to go to these locations. And that is now where my business has moved to more, that we can showcase locations as well as capture images that I will use for my gallery. Yeah,
cool. And I suppose in terms of any sort of advice, if someone wanted to sort of adventure in this avenue, is there anything that you could tell them, I guess, to get started? Or
it's a tricky one, because the social media side of things, like it is a pretty crazy world with lots of people doing lots of different things. And but I've always believed if you really love what you do, and that's why you're doing it, that will show through all your social accounts, and you'll get engagement that's genuine engagement, and that's very important in that aspect. So, and if you love what you're doing, well, you're winning anyway. So if you can be that way, then I'm a big believer. If you really try hard and you really love something, it'll just work out for you. And that's kind of been the way things have always worked. If I'm slacking off in an area, maybe things won't work so good there. But if you're really passionate and you're getting up at that 4 o'clock to try that sunrise, and you just keep doing that every day, eventually you find yourself in the right place at the right time, where this magic happens, and that gives you the advantage on other people who haven't pushed as hard and aren't there at the right time. And then if you're using the best equipment, well, you sort of capture everything all together. So that's always been the way I've run my photography business, and it seems to work pretty well. Yeah,
and your little motto, if you're in the right place at the right time, that really shows up.
That's it, and that's what I've always said. So, and the only way to be in the right place at the right time is to always be out there looking. And by doing it more, you start to get a bit of a feel for it as well. And I really like that run and gun style of photography. You can be sitting there and you can just look up and you can just tell the air's changed or the lights change, and then before you know, if you're then moving, you can be at that spot. I've never been a photographer that will go to a waterfall or
Yeah.
a location and wait, days and days. I think I prefer to keep moving, and eventually at one of those points I will be there when this magic's happening, and that's when it's like,
Yeah, cool.
that's when you capture those special moments.
Yeah, and so Sean, you brought along a little behind the scenes, I guess, photo, which we'll just flash up so we can see what your camping setup's like, and which I guess will play into that if you're out there in the right place and you're actually doing things and you come across the awesome things. Cool, so we've got the photo up.
Yep.
I don't know if you want to give a little explanation.
Yeah. So that's this was on the Outback Way. I got Luke Workman. He's a videographer that I have working for me full time now. He's a great guy. He's very talented. We both sort of travel all around together, and this trip was from Winton in Outback Queensland right across to Laverton in WA, so it was 2,700 kilometres of dirt roads. Wow. It was the first trip Luke came on. It was a bit of a learning experience to see if we could work together. So thrown into the Land Cruiser and sort of working together was pretty intense for a little while, but once we sort of sorted each other out, we've worked out how to work together well, and that's it. We are camped out there under the stars, so we wake up, if we can see the lights looking great, we can capture it straight away. We do huge hours, probably do 14 hours a day, because we're doing sunrise to sunset, we're doing Milky Way images, but because we live and breathe it and we love it, it's quite easy. I'm trying to get my sons and that into it more. A couple of them are right into the photography, but I still haven't seen that passion to want to be there all day, whereas Luke, you'll wake him up at 5 o'clock, he'll just jump straight out of bed, and he'll be there with me at midnight chasing the Milky Way. Yeah, true. And so what's the longest period of time you've been away in that? Last year was probably one of the longest ones, because we had a bit of a COVID issue. We didn't catch it or anything, but I was doing Northern Territory all the way down WA. Luke did fly home so my son and his mates could come and join me in WA, and they just got in to meet me, and then the borders closed, so Luke couldn't come back, so my son came back, and I was originally going to come home for a couple of weeks, so I couldn't do that, so I had to stay there on my own and end up spending another 2 months by myself, sort of just through the Kimberley. That was the Gibb River Road, that was all along the Nullarbor, had to go up to South Australia through the Birdsville track to get home. But all in all, that probably was about 4 months, that trip. And I think last year ended up being 200 and something nights sleeping in the roof tent. So sort of, but absolutely loved it. And always talking to the family, always flying home when I can, but that was a bit of a different story last year. Yeah, okay. And you like your own company, you don't? Yeah, it is. I do get inspired when I'm out there on my own. You've got music sort of playing loud, and you're driving through those dusty outback roads, and it just gives you a vibe, and just seeing what you see out there, it's what really drives me to keep looking for that next moment. Yeah, cool. And I guess when you're on that, you would have, we have another photo you brought along, which is going to be part of your series you want to bring out eventually, but whenever it comes out. So I will show that one up of the golds flowing. So yeah, if you want to talk a bit about that series. Or? Yeah, that was in the Kimberley. That's a series called Flow, and it sort of focuses on my fascination with water and the movement of water. I first sort of started it when I was flying over some of the mud flats over the Kimberley area, and I sort of noticed these tidal patterns and just thought they looked beautiful. You get them with the right light, and they can go to these golden rivers. Yeah, that's amazing. And then from there I've also morphed that into underwater as well. So underwater, when the waves break, they also create this pattern. So I've got a selection of images probably for the last 3 or 4 years all over Australia and all over the world, which is going to become part of this flow. Just need to stop and slow down to work out when I can release an exhibition or something with it. Yeah. But it's coming. Yeah, everyone can stay tuned for that. And I guess where would be 3 of your favourite photography destinations that you've been, do you think? Or however many you have. Yeah, there's a lot. I love the Kimberley, I love being out in that outback area. I love the coast. I love Fraser Island. I just got back from there the week or 2 ago. That was absolutely beautiful over there. There's too many places to name. Lady Elliot Island here is a special one for underwater images. Anyway, and I do a lot of stuff overseas as well. Obviously been on hold for a couple of years, but I've got trips booked this year, I think, for Switzerland and Canada, and was supposed to go to Saudi Arabia, but I think I pulled out of that one, so I'm not sure yet. Which actually we have another photo we can show as well from Lady Elliot Island of the turtle underwater. And I guess you were saying a bit earlier is a bit more of a technical shot. Yeah, that was quite a tricky one. You know, I use Aquatech water housings, have my whole life as well. And with the Canon cameras inside it, they're a great piece of equipment. That one there is a flash, so I had to swim with quite a big housing. I got to hold the flash underwater with my hand. You got to try to find a turtle in the dark. You got to focus on both above and below. You got to continually adjust the exposure for the setting sun. I think no, that was sunrise, so the rising sun. So it's always changing. At the same time, trying to dial up the flash and float around. So it's quite a technical shot, but when it works, it's it comes out quite well.
Pays off. Yeah, true. And I guess, so you were saying, so trips on your agenda this year, that was the question we had earlier. Where was it you said you were going this year? You're going Sweden? No, Switzerland?
Yeah, first off though, I've got the Northern Territory. I've done lots of road trips this last few years and I'm still doing them. So I'm doing one called the Explorer's Way, which is from Adelaide all the way to Darwin. So straight up the centre, so that one is first up. And then I'm doing some Arnhem Land with the NT Tourism. Then I'm doing some Outback Queensland. Then I come home for the June, July school holidays with the family. And then I'll do a Great Barrier Reef road trip, which is going to be 2 months from basically the start of the Great Barrier Reef all the way to the top, where I drive and just visit all different locations and do underwater photography, do some drone photography and plenty of standard photography.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of your tourism stuff, is there, when you've been on those journeys, anywhere that you've liked more than the others, I guess?
Kind of. I'm lucky that I do get to work in a lot of the places that I choose to work in, so I love them all. I don't like to say I love one more than the other because I'm kind of working for them all. But they all are special. Like I wouldn't go there if I didn't want to go there.
Yeah, true.
So places like Fraser Island, it's as good as anywhere in the world. Lady Elliot Island's as good as anywhere in the world. The Kimberley, you've got Esperance, you've got the Northern Territory, Tasmania. Every area's got something different, and that's where I really find my passion for my photography, is when I get out there and explore. I don't like to see where someone else has been and try to walk along and take the photo from that place. I like to go places I've never seen and just feel like your senses are much more awake, and you see things that you would not normally see, and you find things. And even though you're not discovering new places because people have been there, you feel like you are, and that's what we love to do the most. Yeah,
cool. And with the tourism companies, how did that kind of connection happen? Did they reach out to you via your socials, or how does that sort of develop?
It has developed over time. With that social following, I was kind of lucky that I did get into that early. And then just the fact that I've worked with them for so long. I'm a Friends of Australia ambassador for Tourism Australia, so that's helped as well. And just building up those relationships with the tourism boards all around Australia. And they've seen the work. I always over-deliver. I always, when I work with somebody, I always make a point of, you never complain. You always just make sure you get what they want done. You do that and better. And because we are passionate and we love our job, it's easy for us to over-deliver and show them, the best quality images we can get. If I didn't like a place, it would probably be quite hard, but because I don't go to those ones, we're lucky that we get good locations. And usually in helicopters, going heli fishing and doing all these pretty incredible things. So it's hard not to get really
more than they need.
Yeah, that's it.
True. So in terms of, we'll talk a little bit about gear. So you're using the latest Canon mirrorless stuff, you were saying. What's your camera and your main go-to lenses, I guess?
I've moved everything across to mirrorless now. So in my truck, I've got two R5s. I've got two R5s, the R6 and the new R3. And then I have loads of lenses. I'm trying to remember them all. I've got it's a 20.
Is it RF lenses?
All RF lenses as well, 24 to 70. I've just got the new 400 2.8, which I'm really keen to use on some wildlife or some big surf. I use the 100 to 500 RF lens. I love that lens. It's a good sort of run and gun lens because it's got quite a large focal length. A little bit more limited in the lower light if you're really chasing some sort of action. It's a bit harder. That's why I've gone with this new 400 2.8. I've also got the f2. That's a 28 to 70. Yeah, 28 to 70 f2. I love that lens. I use that one a lot.
That's a big lens.
Yeah, the 15 to 35. I use that a lot for a lot of sunrises and landscapes. I'll use that in the water. I have gotten rid of my old EF lenses, so I currently haven't got a fisheye. So I'm sort of hoping and waiting for the wider ones to come out for when I start doing some ocean with some of the marine life. I'll probably be looking for those new lenses again. So, but I'm pretty stoked. I've got a pretty big suite of pretty nice lenses
Yeah,
now, and
cool.
they're working a treat.
And is there any one in particular you would use, I guess more for wildlife would be your 1 to 500 use the most, or?
It was maybe the 400 once
Get into
depends
it?
on what I'm starting to shoot, for
Yeah.
sure. The 100 to 500 is a great one to grab and just and go. It's good for surf because you can be a little bit wider, a bit closer.
Yep.
So I'll probably go between both of those.
Yeah, cool. And for more landscape stuff, it was the 15 to 35.
15 to 35 I like using 35mm lens as well. I've got the 85mm prime as well, which
nice.
I do like to use for a bit of a different kind of a landscape shot.
Yep.
They all kind of work different times.
And how do you go about keeping your gear clean or maintenance throughout your trips?
I've got a good setup in the truck where they do sit in there. They still do get a bit of dust. I've got a compressor so I can blow the dust off them as much as I can. I do treat my gear as best I can, but they are tools in the end of the day, so I use them as tools. So, if they get a little bit bumped or dusty here or there, it's kind of part of what happens. And when I get back, I sort of maintain them as best I can. But I've never had an issue with any of my gear out there. It's never let me down, so it's been very good.
Cool. What lenses, so we had some questions come in prior. So one of the ones that came in, it says, what lenses do you use and locations when you're first starting out? So like, I guess, would there be any one that you would recommend for someone as an all-rounder, or one of the cameras over the other if you're just getting into this kind of thing?
Yeah, I don't know all the mirrorless, like is it the EOS R? I'm not sure if are they still doing the R?
Yeah, the original.
Yeah, so I don't know all the different models. 24 to 70 is always a great lens. I think that's very versatile. It's a sort of a trickier question depending on your budgets and things like that. I do use a lot of the nicest glass, which does give me that advantage in some critical light-ish when it's low light, or if I really want something super sharp. But one of my biggest selling prints in my gallery was taken with I think it was taken with a Canon D60, which is 6 megapixel, and so
that's the sharks photo.
No, that was just a photo of seagrass. I haven't got that here,
okay.
It's just a simple shot. So you don't have to get too caught up on the technical side of the gear. It does obviously give you advantages when you really pushing that limit, but pretty much what you can afford will be that's where you start.
Grab something and just get shooting
and learn, and then if you can work out a way to make it work for you, you'll just keep growing.
We will show up that other photo that Sean brought in. So we've got a sharks in the wave photo. So we'll pop that up. And if you want to tell us a little bit about that shot.
Yeah, it's quite a well-known photograph of mine. It was taken in Western Australia. It was kind of cool, this one, because I had the family with me and we're pulling into a place called Red Bluff, and it's very remote. It's probably it's Carnarvon actually, just out of Carnarvon. A lot of people would know where that is at the moment from what's happened recently out there. And this is about 200 kilometres further out on a dirt road. And as I was pulling in there, you could see a massive big bait ball of sharks. And I had the caravan on the back. It's quite hot, it's quite dusty there. And I was trying to pull the caravan in, and I could see all these sharks going through this massive bait ball. So I was just like, my wife's wanting me to set up a caravan, and it's a pretty tricky area to do it. And I'm sort of losing my mind because I could see what's going on. So I half set it up in the end and went, no, I've got to stop. I've got to get out. And I flew the drone for the first hour, just landing it every 10 minutes, changing the SD card because it was looking that incredible. The footage actually ended up on BBC Earth,
cool.
And also Current Affair used some of it with the sharks.
Yeah, wow.
But I saw the sharks push up onto the beach, and I could then think, okay, and there's quite a big shore breaking, so I thought now's the opportunity to get out, the DSLR. So I went down there, had the 100 to 400mm Canon lens on, and the first wave came and I saw it stand up. I sort of focused and got the exposure right for it. And then the second wave came, and sure enough, there's these sharks sort of surfing through the wave, which you don't see every day. You see dolphins in the waves, but not sharks. So I kind of took it. My son was with me. He's probably, I think he was maybe 7 or 8 at the time. And I'd taken that shot, and then I showed my son, and he just started jumping up and down. And I thought, okay, well, this is something special. And and sure enough, when I started to put that on social media, it kind of went crazy. It went all around the world. People were using it for newspapers.
Cool.
But it's just about, once again, being in the right place at the right time, knowing how to use your equipment. That's the other thing I always tell people. It's one thing to be there, then you want to know when you're there that you don't have to think about it. You know how your cameras and all that work. You can just go to it, and yeah, as long as your cameras are clean and looked after, it all comes together.
Yeah, and I guess that's one big tip, is that if you've got your camera, know how to use it, because if you miss it, then you miss it.
That's it.
Yeah.
So the two things I always say: be in the right place at the right time, but also spend that time to technically know how to use a camera. It's the most boring bit, but you don't want to be there going, "Oh my God, there's a shark in a wave, and what am I doing here?" You want to know, okay, it's going to be fast enough, shutter speed's not going to. Everything's going to work technically for that photograph without having to think about it, and then take it. So. And once you've got that skill, that's how I shoot all my photography. I couldn't tell somebody what settings to use for lighting or anything like that. I can usually get there and just work it out pretty quickly. And it's always been the way I've done it. So
and I suppose if you don't like know how to use your gear, it can turn you off, I guess, and maybe halt your passion as well, I think.
That's it, and it's nothing to be scared of. Like, there's all these big manuals and everything, but at the end of the day, there's only 3 or 4 things you really got to understand how they work together, and once that clicks, you kind of just work out any scenario.
So we had a viewer question come in. I know you mentioned it briefly before about the mirrorless camera that you're using, and how obviously it's very beneficial, but I guess is there anything, I guess it's just as easy to use a DSLR as it is your mirrorless. You wouldn't say there's a major benefit to one or the other, or if there is, what?
Oh, one of the benefits I think now shooting with the mirrorless is you are looking at your exposure as well. So it kind of takes a little bit of that guess away. If you've got your exposure wrong on the DSLR, you'd have to wait till you've shot it and or look at your meter inside, or look at your preview, whereas this is instantly telling you. The downside of that, sometimes you can stop thinking a little bit, and sometimes you can see it looks cool, then you realise, oh shit, my shutter speed was a bit too slow on that one. So you just got to keep your wits about you, but that is one thing I do like, to be able to see the exposure.
Yeah, true. And so you said you're shooting on 2 R5s. Would you prefer that over the R6, or?
I've got the R6 there too, but I haven't used yet. That's supposed to be for for some, when I do some astro. Plus, my sons quite often photograph with me, and I've got 2 young boys and myself, and then Luke, who works for me. So potentially, I could have 4 of us wanting to grab cameras. So that's why I've got the R6 as well. One of those can use that. But the R5 at the moment is my main go-to. The R3 will be used for some sport, maybe when I get in the water housing for it, with there's fast waves where you really want that extra few frames, which can make the difference between some pretty unique images. Like, it's something you don't need, but maybe the person comes out like, oh my God, if you're watching a wave break underwater, they come some pretty, and it's really fast. So having all those extra frames will help. You see guys with GoPros doing it, and sometimes you're like, oh, but they've shot 30 frames a second, and the quality is not very good when you go large. But now you're going to have that advantage to be able to match their shutter speeds, but have a way better file. Yeah,
true. We had another viewer question come in. It was asking if there's any tips for someone who's getting started with wildlife or landscape photography. I know you kind of already mentioned a little bit, but if there's anything that comes to mind about any tips for them if they're getting started?
Yeah, it's all, once again, it's being at the right place at the right time. So it's just going that extra mile. Like, you can sit there and go, what's it going to look like up top of that lookout? You got to go up that lookout and have a look. Or if you're laying in bed thinking, what's the sunrise going to be? Get up and go. I've been at Fraser Island, camped out there, and every morning early and every afternoon really late, if you stay out looking, the dingoes are out on the beach, there's nobody around. So you've just got to push yourself in all those situations. And if you are dealing with wildlife, obviously being quiet, things like that help if you're in the water.
Oh, yeah, true.
Quite often I've been swimming with, whales or turtles, and you get some people super excited and they start splashing and thrashing around, heading towards the animal, it'll take off. So being able to slow yourself down for the wildlife and be quiet and just be present and, really take in what you're looking at and photographing, you'll sort of connect to it, and then that'll really sort of help your photography and also make the experience a lot better for both of you, I suppose. Yeah,
true. And I suppose that's a good thing to think about, is that, not only being there at the right place at the right time or just go and do it, is that take more caution if you are around things that could get frightened.
Yes, that's right. That's it, definitely. And at the end of the day, you just end up with a great experience, even if it hasn't worked out. You've had a sunrise, you've walked to the top of a hill, so it's something you will remember anyway. Even if it wasn't any wildlife there or whatever, but you've got to keep doing it. Now, I don't mind. Sometimes I'll get up early and go all the way from home to Noosa to chase a swell, and I get there and it's no good, and I come back and I don't mind because I know, after maybe 20 of those, I'll get a really good one. So that's one less now. So each time you keep doing them, you get closer to being at the right place, I think.
And you've had a little trip anyway.
Yeah, had a little trip. Yeah, you've gone out and had coffee at Hastings Street.
Nice.
So that's always works.
Yeah. And so you're based in Burleigh. Do you think you'll always be in Burleigh?
Yeah, I love Burleigh. I love coming home. There's surf there's great. That's where my gallery is at Burleigh Heads. I live very close to Burleigh at Miami. Beautiful national park. I think it's a place I'll always live. My family's grown up there. Definitely home and love it there.
Yeah, nice. And so in terms of your photographers before you became who you are now, was there anyone you looked up to, or is there favourite photographers that come to mind?
It's a little bit different. I did have one. It was an old school surf photographer called Dick Hill.
Okay.
He sort of was one of the pioneers in surf photography. He also did a lot of films. I think he did Riders of the Storm. He used to do that with another, I can't remember the other filmer's name now, but he used to sort of talk to me a little bit, mentored me a little bit early in the early days because he used to love seeing my images and that. So, and when I first started photography, it was pre no social media, so no real, not much internet either really. So it wasn't though I'd see a lot, and I didn't technically learn photography through any universities or school. So I actually loved it was that way. I just saw things and thought, this looks nice, how can I make something and sell it at a market? And so I kind of, for a long time, went my own way. And then, but I had Dick as a bit of a mentor to say, this is great, that's great, and showed me a few technical things, which was great. But apart from that, I have enjoyed having that clear mind. Now it gets harder because then you start to see all these influences, which can inspire you, but then you sort of don't want to ever copy. So I kind of gets a little bit trickier, but it is what it is.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And in terms of the whole beginning of social media, how did you get into that and I guess launch yourself in that field?
I can't really remember now. I remember I had my gallery at Burleigh, and I think some of the girls that worked for me might have said this Facebook thing, or what was before Facebook. There's an older one.
MySpace.
I think it was something like that. And they're like, this could be good, you should try this. And I think we jumped across to Instagram pretty early, just mucking around while I was at Burleigh checking the surf. And that's sort of, I wasn't like super early, but I definitely wasn't as late as I could have been. So that sort of helped. And once again, it's another way of me showing people things. I love taking photographs. Social media is a way of doing it. So I've kept it that way, that we do try to just show people things we want to show, and people like it. So it's worked.
Yeah, and it's just been like an organic growth. Do you have someone that helps you manage it, or how does it all?
I've got Luke now, the videographer. He runs a lot of that for me. He helps me as well. It is a lot. Like there's a lot on there, keeping on top of it, and
for sure,
and trying to keep that engagement going. But we do the best we can. There's only two of us, and we're doing a lot of other things as well. I think some companies we work for have 4 people probably just managing accounts similar to what we've got or less, and it's like
true.
But it's it's definitely a handy tool to have, and if you can use it as a tool and not get too obsessed with it, and because it can also, I've seen people where it really does get in people's heads. So they don't think, if they haven't got a big following, and don't think they're good enough to be doing this or that. So you just got to let it be what it is, and use it where you can, and don't worry about it in other areas.
It's another tool, but also a means of you to show everyone what you're doing.
Definitely, and it's an asset for some of the people I work for, because it's not only can we go out and create video content now, photo content, but we also can have social media exposure through our channels as well. That's not as big as what it used to be. A lot of people used to really want a lot of social engagement, but now with a lot of people doing similar things and figures being all over the place, a lot of brands have moved back to the content, which I prefer, because that's what we have always been super strong on, is making sure we make the right content.
Yeah, cool. So we had another question that came in prior to the show about if you work with any stock agencies. Do you give your images to any stock agencies?
We do. Yeah, we do a little bit. That was one of the girls that used to work for me set up. I think it's called the Room Agency. I'm not sure who they use, but we don't do it as much as we probably should, because we are photographing all over Australia all the time. So we have a big library, but there's a little bit there that just tickles over, which is kind of handy.
Yeah, cool. So for the shoots coming up this year, is there one that you're looking forward to more than the other, or you're not allowed to say that?
No, they're all looking pretty cool. So
Yeah.
you know, there's, like I said, Switzerland, Canada, then but the first one, the NT, I suppose, is what I've got my mind on at the moment, and that's looking unreal. We've got helicopter flights around Uluru at sunset and sunrise. We've got helicopter flights through Kings Canyon.
Oh, cool.
So it's probably not the one I'm looking forward to the most, because I don't know, but it's the first one, and I'm pretty excited to start that way.
Take it as it comes.
Yeah, start that way, and then we'll just keep rolling with it all the way through the year.
Yeah, cool. We had a question came in just then about the astro stuff you do, and if there's one camera you prefer to use over the other for that, whether it's the R6 or R5 or...
I've still got so that to be a bit of a work in progress. I did always use the 1DX Mark II. I loved that for me Astro, but I have recently sold that, so I haven't been out again since. I'm assuming it's probably going to be the R3 or the R6 that I'll use for that.
Yep.
But yeah, so if you are following along, you'll probably see in this next trip in the NT which one I work out. So, but yeah,
and why wouldn't you use the R5?
Technically, I'm not right into all that as well, but the
yeah.
R6 has got less megapixels, so I think they're bigger then, and they let more light in, better in low light, so that's what you want for a lot of the Astro, and it's probably the same with the R3. And
Yeah, cool. Oh well, we'll stay tuned for that then.
That's it, yeah. But I think they all shoot Astro really well.
Yeah.
And I did look into that when I was looking into buying the R6, and a little bit of stuff I saw on the internet was saying that the R6 should be better.
Yep.
And then I think speaking to Canon, they said the R3 should be even better. So
yeah, cool.
I think I've got definitely the right tools
Enough
there.
options,
Just gonna have to play around using them.
Yeah.
And the new 15 to 35mm f2.8, that'd be a great lens to use with it.
Yeah, nice.
So there's some good options.
Yeah. And so in terms of your 20 plus years of experience, you've never done any workshopping or wanting to do any of that kind of thing, do you think?
We've done a little bit. I used to help out Darren Dew and Canon Collective when they did the Lady Elliot Island workshops, and so I love it over there. Get to swim with turtles all day and take guests out and show them how to use the Aquatech water housings. That was fun. I have sort of thought about it a little bit, but I haven't gone down that path yet. It may be something in the future.
Too busy.
Yeah, it's sort of, I want to do it, but don't know. Maybe
we'll
one
see.
day.
So is there any other expansion of your gallery, do you think? You would ever open up another gallery anywhere else, or?
Don't think so, not at this stage. I've got a factory now we've opened, which we manufacture a lot of our own frames. I do all my own printing. I've got all my own Canon large format printers, so we print all that myself and the gallery staff. So we love doing that because there's nothing better than being able to get out there, shoot it, come back, edit it, print it out straight away. Literally, I can have a mat board or a frame made and in the gallery the afternoon after I've taken it, if I really want to push it that fast. And that is it's fun. You sit there, you can see that come to life. I know Canon used to say it's not a photograph until it's actually printed, and when you are start printing your own work, it sort of gets addictive.
True.
And the factory we've got all these large frames ready for the Flow exhibition when I decide to press a button on that, so they're all sitting there ready. And we love playing around with different timbers, different mat boards. And me and Luke and a few of the girls sort of come together and try to work out ideas of how we can present things. So I think more in the factory space, maybe with exhibitions there, because it's a good little area as opposed to opening up other galleries, and maybe exhibitions where we travel around, something that we might look at as well.
And is it a big team of you that work there, or how?
No, we're pretty little, so I've just got Luke, myself, then we have about 3 or 4 girls in the gallery. Then my wife helps a lot, and my 2 sons a little bit, and my daughter as well, she works in the gallery, so we're pretty little. So
that's nice.
Usually in the factory, just me and Luke most of the time playing around. We've got a caravan in there we take away with us. We've got all our camping gear, which has sort of become part of what we do as well. We do a lot of stuff with off-road companies when we're out there. It all sort of works together. Like if you're out there shooting, a trip, say the Gibb River Road, which is a remote part of the Kimberley, at the same time we've got this full drive, so we capture that and then we capture all the products. So that's another way financially you can kind of make all these things work. You're working for a tourism partner, you're working for images for your gallery, then you've got some brand partners on board that are after images as well. Yeah, cool. So the factory sort of works as a bit of a hub for all our gear and all our toys that we love playing with. And,
true. And a question just came in then about the advantages of having your gallery space. Do you think is there anything other than being able to instantly print, or what do you think there's any other advantages about having it there?
Yeah, well, definitely the printing, just showcasing your work in in real life. That's the one thing I probably get frustrated about. I shoot everything, landscape. If you're on social media, you need to pretty much put it all portrait to make it larger, to make people see it, to help the engagement. So having the gallery where people can go and see the images the way I originally intended people to see them, that's quite important for me. And that's where my favourite images always go. And everywhere I go, no matter who I'm working for, the tourism boards, everything, I'm always looking for that image for the gallery, because that's my passion, is photography. So we're always looking for those beautiful big photographs. At the same time, it's easier to get a photo of Luke standing there looking at the view. So that's the tourism one. And then the car coming down the hill with that view there. So that's there. But if a shark comes out or something, that's straight onto the landscape image ready for the gallery. So that's always where my mind is. But the byproduct of that is something that people want to see, and the tourism boards want to see, and the social media wants to see. So it just it all
works. Fits in.
Yeah, it just works sort of naturally.
Yeah, cool. And what's the biggest print you've ever done then?
Oh, yeah, myself printing it's really limited to we got I think it's a 60-inch Canon printer, so we can print that by whatever length. There's a big one in Pacific Fair, Coles, I think, put up on a wall, huge surf one. That would be
cool.
A story or two high. Yeah, massive.
Yeah, wow.
So, and that's an advantage again of using the best Canon equipment. Always at the edge of as far as good as it can get. So
the quality can be humongous.
Yeah, unless if I can't do it, not many people can do it. Like with the image, unless they're shooting maybe large format back in the day. But that's
a pretty cool feeling. What was it like when you first had a huge print done?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to see it. There's a few on the M1 actually. If you're driving down, some of the surf shots you'll see talking about the Gold Coast surf breaks. They're ours. And, the kids always like it when they're cruising past and they can see it. And there's a couple on some billboards of just my son actually sitting on the surfboard as well. So
cool.
Yeah, it's always fun being able to see images like that.
Cool. And so other than your, I guess, upcoming Flow exhibition that's going to eventually happen, what's next for Sean Scott? What do you think?
Got a few little things we're playing around with. I've got the new R3, and I've got the old EOS 3, which I've left half full of film when I was shooting film back in the day. So I'm thinking about doing something around that. It's calling it the forgotten roll, because there's a half forgotten roll of film sitting in there. So I don't know what those images are that are on there, because they were 20 years ago. Yeah, might even take it down with the new R3 and shoot the R3 and finish the roll off with the original 3 and do something with these limited edition prints out of there. And then the rest of the year is just the tourism work, and you don't know what's going to happen there. You get things that like things like those sharks, or you might get some pretty wild things happen while you're out, and you just look for it. And
cool. And so just going back to your prints and stuff, is there any amount of numbered prints that you can buy, or how many of them do you make?
Yeah, it changes. We have some that are just open edition, and they're the ones that are majority on the website, but we do have limited edition prints where they are limited to 100 or 200, depends which series. And the Flow series, I am tossing around just making them limited to one only. I've got quite a lot of images saved up now there for over probably 5 years from remote locations, and all look pretty incredible. So I am looking at maybe just releasing one of each of those just to make it special, because there is quite a lot of them. So
cool. And in terms of, we haven't really touched on any post-production stuff, but it's more you get things right in camera and then you just run and gun, do your own style of editing and stuff?
Yeah, so when I'm out there, I am very careful with as far as backing up. We always run 2 separate hard drives on the road, so we straight away download to one, then back it up to a second one. That's for video and for photo, so that's always happens. When I come back to the gallery, I then transfer them to a big hard drive we've got in the gallery and another hard drive at my home, so they're always double backed up throughout the whole time. Editing wise, I'm a bit old school still, so I still use Bridge and just Photoshop. I'm never really, something I'd like to get better at is the editing, but I do edit all my own photos. I sit there and just go through them and get them the way I like them. I do see some people who are amazing at editing. It's something I would like to do, but I
Yeah.
just haven't got the patience.
I
at the
think
moment.
with your style as well, it's a lot you do in camera, and then it doesn't necessarily need a lot of fake editing on all of
No.
those crazy things anyway.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. If you're in the right time, the right light, when that
Yeah.
special light is, it doesn't take much
Yeah.
to really bring it out in camera.
Yeah. So we had another question that came in, and it was about how many photos roughly do you think it takes to get the one?
Oh, tricky one.
In, for example, the turtle photo.
The turtle photo, the turtle photo would probably have been maybe a couple of hundred photos that morning,
Yeah,
maybe.
right.
I probably got 5 or 6 that were really good.
Yep.
Other times it depends if it's really happening, like
Yeah.
if the light and everything's right, you get lots of good ones. It's then
Yeah.
a matter of picking which good one do you
Yeah.
take. And that's also what I do with my standard landscape for locations where I live and go to, even though I might have a beautiful sunrise of Burley Cove with some surfers going out. I'll keep going down to that beach every day and try to get the similar shot, but maybe with the waves lined up just that little bit nicer.
Nice,
And
yeah.
they slowly will take away the image before.
Yeah.
But it might take another 1,000 times being down there before I get one better than that last shot I had.
Yeah, right.
But it's that's what gives you that rush to go back there, even though when you're there and my son's usually like, let's go now, it's not as
Yeah.
good as last time. And,
Yeah.
But you're there, you're trying, and
Yeah.
one day it will be a little bit
Will be
better than
better.
last time. So in that case, yes, it's a lot more photos to get one. So it changes with what you're doing.
Yeah, true. I guess it depends on what you're shooting and where you are, or
Yeah,
Yeah,
but if you're
true.
swimming with like the whales in Tonga or something,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure you'll get a lot of good ones
Yeah.
straight away. But might be better than the last time you went. So I'm sure someone like Darren probably takes
yeah.
a lot longer to get one to replace the ones he's already had, because
Yep.
he's got so many beautiful shots from the past.
True, true. We had another question that came in that said, what do you think would be your toughest shot that you've had to get, or most challenging photo that you've got?
Oh,
If
tricky
you
one.
can-
I suppose
yeah.
that turtle shot was pretty tricky,
Challenging.
but it's, I don't know. I've had some in Iceland where it's like
Oh, yeah.
freezing cold and you're out chasing the northern lights. I was by
yeah,
myself,
cool.
so you're sort of driving around at night time not knowing where to park. And I've been in Canada as well,
Yep.
same thing, shooting the northern lights there and being concerned about grizzly bears coming running
Yep.
out and you're on your own, not really knowing what you're doing. There's a few different ones. I've shot in Greenland, like split shot of icebergs half underwater.
cool.
That would probably be one of the hardest ones,
Yep.
because I had the water housing on a monopod upside down off the edge of a sort of little ice breaking boat, trying to get it half underwater and
Yep.
trying to change the flash settings in a aquatech housing with thick gloves on.
Yep.
That was probably, I reckon that's probably
Pretty
my most
the challenging one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you're having those kind of shots, it's very run and gun. Like, just do what you need to do to get the shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, and just getting those settings, actually physically getting your fingers on them, that's quite hard. And sometimes, because I can get airsick too, and I've been flying through the big ice caps and that, and sort of half being sick as you're trying to photograph caribou running through the rivers and that.
Yep.
So that's another challenging moment, trying to deal with the sickness while you're
Yeah.
working.
Oh,
too.
yeah. True. You wouldn't think about that, but
Yeah, that's hard. When you're seasick, I've been in the boat in Indonesia and you're looking at
Oh.
waves and you just feel like
Yeah.
dying and you're
Yeah.
trying to take photographs.
yeah. And so you also do lots of drone stuff. So what's your go-to drone setup? What do you?
I've got the new Mavic 3 now.
Oh, cool.
Haven't used it a lot either.
Yep.
I've got the whole new lot of gear at the moment. It's pretty
Yeah,
exciting. We've
yeah.
sort of come back from the year. I've used it a couple of times. It looks great.
Yep.
The drone, I love using the drone. It's something that I believe helps connect you to where you are. Like you can be in some remote location. Like I was in the Maldives once on the tip of
nice.
this little island, and you can be there, but flying the drone away and looking where you are, it sort of makes you feel like exactly where you are and gives you all these different angles.
Yeah.
The image quality, obviously nowhere near as good as shooting with my Canon, so I'm trying to get the Canon camera as much of those locations. Sometimes
Yep.
I use the drone to find something, and then I'll go back and find out how I can get a helicopter to get there
Oh.
at the
Yeah.
right time. So
Yeah.
if I'm lucky enough to be in that position, I will do that.
Yeah.
But the drone is definitely quite handy because it does show you all these spots, connects you to where you are, and
Yeah.
you sort of you sit there at night when you're camped out in those outback locations when you've
Yep.
just literally seen it a couple of minutes ago, where you're one person in the middle of as far as you can see, then you really makes you
Perspective.
feel, it really does does connect you to where you are.
Yeah, cool. And do you do video stuff with your drones as well, or?
Yeah, a lot of video work. I used to do a lot of it. Now Luke does most of that for me, which is great, so I don't have to think about chopping between them. But I still will a little bit. You know, if I'm at the surf at Burleigh and it's huge and pumping, I'll change between video and photo. If we're driving through the outback and I'm on my own, I did a lot of video like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, a lot of people want a lot more video now.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and I can shoot it, and we can shoot it on the the R5. I switch across the video quite often and do it. And we've got the what's the other Canon that's
the
mentioned?
C70.
C70.
Yeah.
We use that as well. We
Yeah,
love
cool.
that, and that uses all our RF lenses.
Yep.
So we're going between that and
Yeah, that works if the mounts are the same.
yeah,
That's nice.
yeah, it's great, and we've got the full suite of lenses for that as well. So me and Luke are pretty set up, ready to go.
Cool. Yeah. I wonder how does, I guess, in terms of managing his gear as well, and it would be similar to how you would manage it with you just have the blowing of the compressor and stuff.
Yeah, and he used to have his own gear. Now I've got him pretty much across on all my gear, so I'm a bit more. He doesn't have to risk his own gear. We have now got 2 of the new Mavic 3 drones, so we've got that Cine version and the standard one. So we've got the gear there, which is mine, which he'll be using, but he looks after it well as well. Probably looks after it better than me, so it's even better. I'll get him to clean mine for me.
Yeah,
so.
true.
No,
true.
it'd be good.
Awesome. So, and I guess just like lastly, across all of the Canon gears, do you think this has been your favourite to use so far? Or do you like the kind of unknowing of film, or what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say I like it the most now. It's things always progress for a reason, things are getting better. I used to like the film. It was more expensive because every time you go down and get it developed, once it went to digital, it was a big game changer as far as being able to see it straight away.
Yeah.
And now the mirrorless, it's a bit smaller, but just all the lenses seem to be nicer now, and everything's just improving.
Gets better.
Always does.
Yeah, true. And someone just wrote in about what would be your dream location that you've never shot at, do you think, if you had one?
Oh. I don't know now. I've been pretty
Big
lucky.
questions.
Like I've been out in those waves in Tahiti. That was pretty incredible. Sitting there looking at Chopu.
Yeah.
If I could, I've been to Iceland, so that was another place which was always on my list. Maybe Antarctica. It's a place that I've been offered to. I haven't been there yet.
Okay.
I think I'd like to do that, or maybe the North. What's the Arctic Circle? I have been up there a bit, but
yeah, cool.
Yeah, maybe a trip.
You've been offered. You never went yet.
Not quite. It's supposed to be happening. It's supposed to happen before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's maybe happening again now. It hasn't, haven't followed that up again at the moment, but it was something that we're going to do.
Yeah, cool.
Which will be pretty awesome.
Sweet. And so I guess just lastly before we wrap up, if it was between wildlife, the surf stuff, or your landscape, what would be the one you'd enjoy the most? If you had to pick one.
It keeps changing. I went from the ocean, I surfed, to landscape, to wildlife, to outback. I did a lot of outback. I love, taking photo of the mustering and the dust in the outback as well. But it's sort of all of them. I can't really pick. If you're there and you've got sharks going through the waves, it's pretty cool. Or if you're out, I've been out in the Kimberley in the outback, and the choppers are mustering up the cattle and the dust and the motorbikes. So whenever that light and those magic moments happen, if you can put yourself in those positions, that's what I look for, and they are everywhere. And they can be. I've been at Burleigh Heads watching a sunrise, and people walk past going, "What are you doing?" And you're like, "Look at that," and they're like, "Oh," and so it happens all around you all the time. It's a matter of having that focus and getting out there looking for it, and just finding that next image. Yeah,
showing people something that they wouldn't necessarily see.
Yeah,
otherwise.
You get it all the time. They're like, "What are you doing there?" And they're like,
look at this.
Yeah,
true.
Or swimming in the water. I'm like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Look how clear and beautiful the water is." They're like, "Oh yeah, true." And, so it's all around you. It's just a matter of focus, and I love it. Like when I've mentioned before, I went to Noosa chasing the surf, and I remember that day I drove all the way from home to Noosa at like 2 a.m. No good. Drove back home. Decided to go to Byron Bay. Went to Byron Bay, and then I got a photo of a girl riding a bike along Byron Bay on the beach, and the bright light silhouette. And I sold that for many years, lots of images. So
there you go.
It's the search that opens your eyes to all the beautiful stuff that's always around you.
Yeah.
That's what I've always thought about. Just getting out there, you just find things. So whether it's going to be beach, ocean, wildlife, I love it all.
True. And do you have any pets or anything that you take photos of?
Oh, I don't. I do have a pet. I've got a golden retriever, which I love, and so obviously he's had lots of photos. He probably gets a bit more iPhone photos nowadays. He's getting a bit older, but I definitely take photos of him when he was, and my kids as well. I like my pets when they're little. I've got some pretty awesome photos of those guys because they're usually in these landscapes. So I remember seeing them in New Zealand with these crazy clouds going, and there's like a nice line on the hill, and got the kids walking down the hill. So we've got quite a good selection of images of that as well. Yeah, right.
And you don't use any flash. What kind of flash do you use when you are doing your ocean stuff?
It was a Canon flash. I think it was a 550 EX. But I think we have just sold that too. So at the moment I'm flashless. Flashless, yes. But I would get something for the new water housing. Yeah. And I don't use a lot of flash in my landscape work. I have when I've had to photograph. We do a trip in the Maldives where I shoot a surfing comp. I might have to do the presentation, so I muck around with a bit of flash, but I don't know what I'm doing there.
Yeah, right. So we had another question come in. No, we did not have another question come in.
That's good.
I mean, is there anything last you want to mention about your whole journey or anything to wrap it up?
I think I keep saying it, the thing about, being in that right place at the right time. If it's your passion, you can find how to do things, and then it's just a matter of just keep looking. Photography kind of found me as opposed to me finding it, and it still does. I'm always passionate to get out there, so it's, for me it comes natural.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming, Sean.
No worries.
It's been awesome.
Shannon.
Thanks for talking and answering all these questions. So before we head off, guys, I just want to remind everyone to like and subscribe, because if you want to stay up to date with all the content. And for next up on the couch, we've got Dale Travers. So he's a commercial and advertising photographer, and he's on February the 22nd. So yeah, thanks again, Sean. It's been awesome.
Thank you.